Hey, this is Jonathan Gilliam. Now, I know you're thinking that I'm just going to do a commercial before the show starts about my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. I'm sure that you're just used to me coming on here, and so you expect me to tell you that the book is about how you can look at yourself from the attacker's point of view and then actually understand where you could be attacked and where your vulnerabilities lie, the avenues of approach that attackers could take. You're probably thinking that I'm going to tell you that there's some stories about the FBI in there and about, kind of giving you an insight on how it is in the SEAL teams and how we think. And you're probably thinking that I'm going to tell you about the 2 workbooks that go along with that if you want them, and how the books, when I explain it like that, it sounds like it's something that, like a textbook, but it's not. It's actually a really good read. You're expecting me to tell you all that stuff. Well, I'm not going to. I'm not going to tell you about that at all before the show starts. I just want to tell you about the children's book that goes along with that, but, kind of, sort of not, but with it. I mean, you don't have to get both of them. You can just get the children's book, but it's unbelievable. It's called The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children, and it's a book of pictures that you give your child or your learning disabled child or young child, or if you're a teacher, you give it to the children, and then you go to teamlittlebigs.com and you get the lesson plans, and you can literally, because there's like 5 different lessons embedded in the pictures, and so you give the book of pictures to the children, you go through the lesson plans with them, and then it becomes a habit for them to understand what they should be doing or where they should be doing certain things and how they can communicate when certain things go on. The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children. Go get it wherever books are sold. And the same thing with Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. And it's 2 workbooks. Wherever books are sold, go get them. And let's start the show before I go doing another commercial.
The truth has arrived.
My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. And happy Monday. It was an interesting speech yesterday that the president gave, so I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to spend an hour and a half going through the whole speech. If you want to watch the whole speech, go do it. I'm going to hit 3 minutes of highlights and kind of spread that into the show and tell you what I think about certain things. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, the one thing that I would like to have seen in there is more. I mean, there was discussion about establishment politics, but that has to be if this president wants to come back, he has to prove to me that he is not going to come back in 2024 and put the same establishment people from Washington, D.C. and the evil family tree that lives in the swamp and has its roots all over the country. He has to tell us that he is not going to put those people back into positions of power, and he's going to try to get rid of them out of Washington, D.C. and around the country. That's not really talked about. That's what I talk about on this show more than anything, is how those people, and that was, I think, the greatest thing that he did wrong. He did so many great things in his presidency, but the one thing that he continued to repeat, mistake that he continued to repeat was that he kept putting people in a position that are Washington, D.C. socialites or orbiting figures, whatever you want to call them. Bill Barr is one of those people. Chad Wolf, the guy that was head of Department of Homeland Security, no experience in anything in Homeland Security. How he got to be head of Homeland Security, I mean, who knows how these people end up in these places? There needs to be real raw experience. People who are dedicated to serving the United States of America and the freedoms and the Constitution and the people of this nation, and stop with putting in people that are part of this deep state. And I didn't hear that. I don't think I missed it. I just didn't hear it. I don't think it was in there. That's the one thing. I don't care. everything else that he talks about has to start with that. Has to start with that, because that ultimately, that is why he didn't get things done. And ultimately, that's why why none of these agencies went after the people at the top of those agencies that were so bad. That's why those people are so bad, how they can exist in these agencies, because no one does anything to stop that. And as far as the agents go, how are they supposed to investigate somebody at the top of their ranks if the people at the top of the ranks are the ones who approve their investigations? You see what I'm saying? It's a crazy dilemma. So let's go ahead and we'll start with this 3-minute rundown of the president's speech that was at CPAC. And by the way, it's kind of interesting. I did a couple tweets yesterday. One of them was that, the problem with the Republican Party is that, for one, it's this establishment issue. And the other problem is that the Republican Party, or the people who run the Republican Party from state to state, right, they believe that the person, I'm not saying all of them, I know some great people on Long Island that run the Republican Party in New York and some other places. But I'll be honest with you. I spent a lot of time in and around Will County, which is the Illinois' 16th district, I believe. They're one and the same there. And, this representative, Adam Kitzinger, who I've been seeing for years and years and years, seeing him on CNN constantly and then on Fox, that he's all about the media, and it was benefited nobody in the Republican Party, right? It was a terrible choice. The Republicans should have never backed that guy, because once somebody gets into office and they become media hounds or media whores, however you want to say it, what tends to happen is that, well, they're worthless, and it becomes more apparent. It's not that they become worthless, it's that they are worthless. And as soon as they get that media hype going around them, or that feeling of adrenaline from being in the media, and they get that recognition, they're worthless from that point. You want these people to be under the fire. You want them to be held to a standard. And people like Adam Kitzinger, he got this point in being on TV where it happens with all these people. They start getting recognition and they start getting popular, and then they just get re-voted back in because they're popular. Tom Cotton is the same way in Arkansas, senator from Arkansas. He was not liked when he first got to Congress because he didn't know how to work with people well, but also he's become this media guy, and people just vote for him because they have no other choice. That's basically it, and because they know his name. We, the people, have to stop with that, and the Republican Party has to stop, because now they got, and I met this girl, 26 years old, in Illinois. She's running against Adam Kitzinger, and I've got a problem with that. No experience whatsoever. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. I know people, and I helped campaign. People campaign in and around that area. I've had them on this show. And just unbelievable. Nick Ficarola is just an amazing guy. People like that with 30 or more years in law enforcement, with degrees and studied and done all these things. What do? No, they don't pick somebody like that. They pick somebody who's 26 years old and pretty. Another thing that President Trump did was give these positions to people, young people. See, this is the problem with giving important jobs outside of, as soon as they get out of college, in the executive branch of the government, okay, or any of these staffers that go to Washington, D.C., and after a couple of years, they then tell people, oh, I worked in Congress, or I worked at the White House, when in fact they didn't really do much of anything, and it's like they just got a job, right? So just the fact that they were there means that they're already qualified? No, I don't think so. You see the same thing with spokespersons. Like, I was a spokesperson for this or that. Rick Grenell is a perfect example. He was a spokesperson for the UN, which means he got briefs and then, or he briefed the ambassador to the UN because he was a U.S. Spokesperson for the U.S. ambassador to the UN. And that's all he's ever done. And he went from there, and President Trump appointed him as an ambassador. That's all experience he has. There's no like operational experience in there at all. You want to see the reality of operational experience? Look at Trump. Real world experience in building businesses and failing and succeeding. And when he goes into office, you see how he was able to do great things. Well, Biden is a perfect example of the opposite of that. Somebody who just goes in and works in government and then builds his resume based on, I had this position. It's not based on what he did or how he served or what, crisis he averted or anything like that. Or where he failed and then continued. It's just politics. And when they put people like Carolina Lauf, I think is her name, in the 16th district, and they choose somebody like that for a candidate, what they're telling the people of that area is that we think you're stupid, and here's a gimmick we're going to wave in front of you so we'll get all of your votes. That's basically what that is, right? It's not, listen, we have found this person, they are this qualified, and we are not going to let somebody run for this office unless they're qualified, because we're the ones, I'm talking about the Republican establishment here, right, that runs each state. They got all their state people, and they do their things, and they're the ones who fund and promote and choose these people to run, these candidates to run for office. And so they have people like her, and they wave them in front of them and say, hey, look at this shiny little thing right here, and we'll get your vote. We're going to give her the money because I don't even know if they believe that she'll win, but for them, it's a popularity contest. It's the same problem as you have with Adam Kitzinger, right? He gets popular, he gets revoted in, and that's the game of politics. These people that are running the Republican Party at the local level know that if they just put somebody out there that is popular, that they'll get the votes. They have no concern at all about what is best for this nation and the absolute terrible shape that this nation's in. They just want to play politics as usual. This person will get elected. They, because they're pretty or because they, we can put them up there and people think they're popular, and that's fine, because they'll make their money or they'll get their props, and that's it. And that is what needs to change. That's where the mutiny needs to occur. Everybody says, well, we need term limits. We got to get these people out of there. It doesn't matter. If the same people are entrenched in the Republican Party that are choosing people for the wrong reasons and funding and approving their campaigns as official GOP candidates, nothing is going to change if they're picking those people because they're popular, because they're pretty, or because they're handsome. He's a handsome guy. Or because they've been on television. You can't choose people like that. If we just had real leaders, we wouldn't have the problems that we have in this nation, and we would be able to quail the left and stop their forward movement. But if they keep doing this, first of all, I'm not going to give them any support. I'm not going to give them any support. In fact, I'm outraged because of the support I gave them in Illinois, that they would turn around and this is what they produce. Look, she's a nice person. I mean, I met her for 5 minutes. She's a nice person, but this is a dirty business. Running the country is not just managing things and going up there and speaking your mind and taking a vote. It's about standing your ground against people who want to destroy this country. It's literally a combat zone in Washington, D.C., but the problem is you got a bunch of people who do nothing up there, and then you got a bunch of other people on the left that are just taking over. So this is a problem. I'm seeing it everywhere. And if President Trump wants to take control of this party, that's what needs to happen. That's actually, if he could do that, it would do more for the nation than if he ran again in 2024 and won. If he put his influence behind getting these people at that level out of the states that are running these things and coming in, young people, see, that's the other problem. These young people come in, they're like promoters more than anything. And they promote events and promote these people, and they're just like the grifters, like that Ollie guy or Women for America First, Amy Kramer and her daughter, and the people that are running, the grifters that ran all that stuff that you saw up in Washington, D.C., that did no difference whatsoever. They just used Trump to promote their nonprofits or their PACs so they could get your money, right? They didn't do anything for anyone. And it's just like that. Those people that are running the Republican Party, that are coming in, they're either young or they've been there for a while, and that's all their focus is, young people, and who are shiny and popular. Wrong. It's going to destroy. It's going to absolutely finish. It'll be the last nail in the coffin of this country if they are allowed to continue to do this. That's my rant on that. And that's the biggest thing I see. I'll be honest with you. All right, here we go. Let's start with the president's speech.
Please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Do you miss me yet? Do you miss me yet?
Yes, we do. And actually, I think the media does as well, because they really don't have, they certainly don't want to talk about Cuomo. Which is another thing if I can remember, I'm going to talk about that before the end of the show. If not, I'll cover it tomorrow.
Going to continue to fight right by your side. We will do what we've done right from the beginning, which is to win. We're not starting new parties. They kept saying, he's going to start a brand new party. We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before. I am not starting a new party.
I cannot tell you how good that makes me feel to hear that, because I've been saying all along, everybody's talking about the Patriot Party, to this, that. You don't need a new party, okay? You don't need a new party. What you need is a mutiny of the Republican Party, just like I talked about a second ago. We need those that stagnant middle ground, the local representatives of the Republican Party and the state level people. We need them gone. We need fresh blood, people that will come in and actually look and promote real leaders.
Many people have asked, what is Trumpism? A new term being used more and more. I'm hearing that term more and more.
Now, here's what's interesting. Look, we can call it whatever we want. Call it Trumpism. I love President Trump. I'm a supporter of his. But everything he's about to point out right now should be the definition of conservatism. That's it. Let's listen.
I didn't come up with it. It means low taxes and eliminating job-killing regulations, Trumpism. It means strong borders. It means no riots in the streets. It means law enforcement. It means very strong protection for the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. It means support for the forgotten men and women who have been taken advantage of for so many years, and they were doing great. And it means a strong military. And of course, we respect our great American flag.
Now, that's the definition of conservatism. I mean, when you think about Ronald Reagan, you think about all those things. And then it got less and less. Bush 41, of course, when Clinton came in, that wasn't the case, but then Bush 43. And at first, it seemed like that's what it was, but then that kind of started to decline. And it's just been massage. Don't make waves. Don't push back. Listen, I hate, this is one of the biggest things I cannot stand, is when I hear, especially congressmen say, or senators, well, our friends on the other side of the aisle, we are friends. We just disagree on the way this country should be ran. If that's the case, then you are out of touch. If you're a Republican and you're going to Washington, D.C., and your friends are on the other side of the aisle and you just feel the different way, you're looking at things, then something is wrong. You shouldn't be in office. I like what Louis Gohmert says. Every day he goes to war. Every day he goes to work, he's in a civil war. That's what Louis Gohmert says. And that's the reality. That's who should be up there. In fact, Louis Gohmert, I think, he meets the standard. He sets the standard for who should be in Washington, D.C. Louis stands up for what is right, and I've never questioned anything he said or did.
You know, when you think about we love you, you're saying that about, I hate to say it, am I a politician? I don't know. Maybe I'm a politician. I hate to admit it, but it's an honor that you would say it. We believe in patriotic education and strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth. It's horrible.
Okay, that's conservatism 101 right there. The problem is the conservatives feel that way. Most don't do anything about it. The conservative movement in this country is a lot like Festivus and George's family, George Costanza on Seinfeld, right? They have, the first thing they do is the airing of grievances at Festivus. And that's all that they really do, the conservatives in this nation. They air their grievances. And watching CPAC, and what's funny is a video from 6 years ago came up on Facebook when I was on Newsmax. And I was talking about the same thing there as I've seen today. And the fact is that CPAC is like a 30-year class reunion with a bunch of people who were popular. They go to these reunions and they show up and talk about how great they are or about how terrible the rival football team was. And then the other people that show up there are the people who always wanted to be their friends, and they show up at these reunions. And that's what CPAC is. It's all these people who, are the popular people in the Republican Party, right? That's probably why I've never been invited there, because I'm not popular and I don't feel like I feel like my message would fall on deaf ears there anyway. But that's basically who shows up there. And then the other people, the grifters, will show up there. I mean, listen, I said this guy's name already in the past week. Scott Pressler, the guy who picks up trash, right? And it's not like he goes up and cleans up. I mean, look, I'm not going to disparage for him if he goes in and cleans up something in the inner city, but you can pick up all the trash you want. It's not going to change a neighborhood when the neighborhood doesn't change themselves. I know people who've gone to Indian reservations, I think in Montana and some other places, and they volunteer every year to go help clean up, build buildings, and so on and so forth on the Indian reservations. They go back there the next year. No work has been done from the point that they left. Like literally the last nail they put in a year ago is the last nail that was in there when they show back up. And it's the same thing with the picking up trash. But the point is, I've met Scott Pressler. It's a gimmick. It's another gimmick for somebody who is an egomaniac. Now I've met him, and I've also followed behind him where he's speaking, and then I get there like a week later to speak at something else, or maybe a couple months later, and it's almost never. I mean, I meet one or two people who like what they heard, but the rest of the people are like they don't even know what they heard, right? But somehow at CPAC, this guy gets a Ronald Reagan Award. So you're telling me, out of all the people who've traveled all over this nation, who've fought at the local level to try and in some cases, like on Long Island, flip several places and get people in office, and people who are really making big changes and striving in this nation to make big changes, real changes, that they're not recognized for a conservative Ronald Reagan Award? I mean, what? What is that all about? I don't even know what that award is. I just saw that in passing. So anyway, CPAC, what I was saying a second ago, is that it's all these people who show up for the popular party, and then all these people who kind of grift off of the Republican Party to make money, which is really the American people, the conservative people. And they all go there and they party down, and it's like an ego fest. Look, if they want to have this every year, whatever, go ahead, do it. But I'm just telling you the reality of it. That's the problem with conservative politics. It's not about you and me. It's not about fixing things in this nation. It's a popularity contest. And I was out in Arizona. I've told this before. I went to the Latinos for Trump conference when the president spoke. I was in the second row and third row. Started off in the second and then was sitting in the third. And those first three rows was all establishment politics or politicians and their families and all these people that are, big donors and stuff for the Republican Party in Arizona. Behind us were 600 normal people. And I just happened to be asked to come there and was able to sit, in the third row. And it was kind of interesting because I was at that divide between those establishment people and the rest. And the other people would come up and say hello or whatever, but you never saw those people in the front two rows front three rows, going back and actually meeting with people. There was like this divide, and it was like the creme de la creme up front, and they never shall they ever communicate or interact with the people from the lowly people from the back. It was so palatable there. I saw it in Florida. I saw it in Florida tremendously. To be honest with you, I was criticizing Illinois earlier. I didn't see that in Illinois. I saw, of course, I didn't get to get around the, all of the politics in Illinois, but what I did get to see in Will County was incredible what I saw. So that's what CPAC is. And so it's not a clear reflection usually on what we need or where we need to go. It's establishment people. And the problem I'm having with CPAC, why I'm so critical of it, is because the president came over there, gave a great speech, but all these other people up there, they're speaking, they're all celebrating, they're all doing, and meanwhile, the nation is literally on the verge of a communist. I mean, we're already in the grip of a communist takeover. It's not going to get any better, and it's going to move at lightning speed now because I don't know if anybody realizes this, but the Republicans lost every single branch of the government. Right? We no longer are in charge in any branch in the government. The presidency was lost. Lost. They cheated. Whatever. They still have it. Look, if you allow a cheater to win, it's because you didn't prepare yourself in advance to find out how they were going to cheat and stop it. So they won at the game. They won. They won the presidency. They won the Senate. They won the Congress. And they won the Supreme Court because the president put judges in positions in the Supreme Court who Clarence Thomas he really should have been the litmus test. And these people that he put in, Amy Coney Barrett, I told you she was going to be weak. She's an establishment person. She's a big business person. And that's the way her decisions have gone. There's been nothing on Roe versus Wade. They didn't do anything for the vote. The election in November, they didn't do anything. Why? Because they're establishment. So while the whole country has completely collapsed politically, these people go down and now they're in Florida and they're all celebrating like they're going to come back with this great victory. Listen, if it didn't work when you were in power, the chances of it working when you're not in power are not good. And I know people say, well, the pendulum always swings back. Yeah, that's because there used to be a pendulum. I mean, for goodness sakes, you go on Twitter and Oreo Cookies is putting out a tweet, trans people exist. That's their tweet. That's how crazy this nation has gotten. And by the way, I'll just say this. If trans and all this other stuff was such an issue, why is it now? Why is it now that all these companies all of a sudden feel that it's their duty to fight? Well, if you weren't fighting before, does that mean there wasn't a problem, or does that mean that you're just jumping on the bandwagon because you're a leftist? I think I know the answer to that. It's the bandwagon. All these young people, the Hollywood, these executives in these leftist companies, they all jump, whatever the flavor of the day is, it's divisive down a political line. They jump on it, period. Let's finish off this speech.
We embrace free thought. We stand up to political correctors. And we reject left-wing lunacy, and in particular, we reject cancel culture.
Again, I agree with him, but we can disagree with it. We can reject it. Those people can applaud all they want. But guess what? Nobody did anything about the cancel culture the entire time the president was in office. So we may reject it, but guess what? We're still getting canceled. Why? Because they own Silicon Valley. The leftists own that. And basically, Silicon Valley acts as an agent of the government. So you can reject it all you want. I know I sound like I'm angry at the president. I'm not. I don't like CPAC is what the problem is. I don't like the fact that these people are down there celebrating like it's a pep rally before a football game because they think they're going to win. I mean, we have the losing team. We have the losing team, and we were given the best foundation, the best coach, but we did not outthink the opponent, and we got beat. And now they own both the home and the away field. And all the equipment to play the game, they own it. So you can reject this all you want, but you can clap all you want. It doesn't mean anything. You either are ready to go to battle and win with whatever it takes, or you're not going to win.
This election was rigged, and the Supreme Court and other courts didn't want to do anything about it. We need
I agree with
election integrity and election reform immediately. Republicans should be the party of honest elections that can give everyone confidence in the future of our country.
Okay, this is where politics drives me crazy. I don't think that the president he is meaning to do this, because I don't believe he is a politician in that way. But whether he's intentionally doing this or not, he's doing it. And what he's doing is he is utilizing something that he didn't fix while he was in office to promote himself for the next election. Right? When they tried to steal the election 4 years ago, that is when the fix should have started. Not, in December of 2020, stop the steal. The steal had already happened. We had 4 years to try to fix it, and nobody fixed it. So while I appreciate the president, and I'm glad he came out, and this bothers me tremendously. I would love to hear him say they got one over on us. They succeeded in rigging the system, and we're going to make sure that never happens again for all people, liberal and conservative. Why, if you're liberal and you see that you think that the country should be fixed this way, or that we should have this project or whatever you want, weird way that you want to go about it, why, if you're in your right mind, would you ever want an election stolen? Because when it's stolen, the people who have to rely on stealing something in order to obtain it will never, ever fulfill what you want them to fulfill. Never. It's always going to end up a failure. And I just wish he's got nothing to hold back. Nothing there at CPAC should have held him back. But instead of saying that, he says, I'll play it again. Let's play it again. Let's back up for a second. Hold on.
Immediately, Republicans should be the party of honest elections that can give everyone confidence in the future of our country. Without honest elections, who has confidence?
I agree with that. So why didn't we go to battle, go to war over this in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020? Why didn't we go to war against deceitful election practice or tactics by the left and fix this? And if we didn't fix it then, how are we supposing it's going to be fixed in 2024, in 2022? There's a problem there. There's a problem with that.
Who has confidence? With your help, we will take back the House. We will win the Senate. And then a Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House.
Now, that would be great, okay? That would be great. But with your help. You see, I know I sound like this show is one big, huge criticism of the president. It's constructive criticism, okay? It's not because I don't think he didn't do a good job and I don't like him. I do. But this is another problem with your help. It's the same thing as show up in D.C. on the 6th. With what are you guiding the people? What are you expecting the people to do with our help? What are you expecting? What? There's nothing that the people can do. Well, the people don't run the elections. The people don't make the decision on whether it's electronic or paper ballot, or if now they're going to even talk about doing it online. That the people have no choice in that. It's not like we vote on how we run an election. This is all political talk. Again, that's why I don't like CPAC. I want to see action. I don't want to see a pep rally.
And I wonder who that will be. I wonder who that will be.
Okay, so that's all I'm going to play of the speech. And I know I sound very, very aggravated. I am to an extent, not at the president, more of CPAC. But I didn't like that the president came out and sounded like a politician. I didn't like that. I know that, again, because it's CPAC and that's all people really do at CPAC, just come out and it's like a pep rally. But I would have come out swinging, and I would have come out understanding where we failed before and saying we are not going to fail there again. You know, when I say I need your help, this is what I need you to do. I don't hear that. I don't hear that from anyone, to be honest with you. You especially don't hear it from the Democrats and Republicans when it comes to Cuomo. You know, the one thing I'm going to say about Cuomo, for one, we may actually get to see 2 Democrat governors removed from office this year. Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo. They may both be removed. Wow. Both of them to be removed from office. I don't know if anybody realizes how huge that is. That's big. The 2 biggest states in the nation, or 2 of the biggest states in the nation, and their governors are almost guaranteed to be removed now. Cuomo literally, if things were investigated properly, should be in jail soon, but I don't think that's going to happen. But he should be. Many of his aides should be. But Cuomo, who's saying now, because a second person has come out and said that he sexually harassed him, and I can guarantee there's going to be more, and probably there's going to be more extreme type of harassment. I can almost guarantee that. And he said that he was just being playful and that he's sorry if he was insensitive. He is digging a hole for himself. But here, I'm going to leave you with this, because this is what really bothers me, okay? For a year, this has been going on, where all these people have been talking about their families getting COVID because of these murderous mandates that not only Governor Cuomo, but other Democrat governors had passed, and caused the deaths of tens of thousands of elderly people and other people to die that they're not even counting outside of the homes, as well as infection of their families. They're not even talking about that. And the fact that Cuomo signed a law where they couldn't where they couldn't be sued for that. And then also, here's the crazy thing, is that especially in New York, entire legislature on the Republican and Democrat sides of the House gave him all power. The dumbest thing I've ever heard. You don't give all power to one person in a crisis. And that's what they did. And for a year, you've heard nothing from these people. Nothing from the legislators at all. And then they started to brew up a little bit, mostly because of Ron Kim, who, and the Voices for Seniors Women and all that they've done. And, you know, I've taken part in a lot of that, where we've gone out and protested and pushed against people. And nothing was coming from the legislature. And then they started a rumble. They said, we're going to have an investigation. The DOJ said they're going to investigate. I don't know where that's going. But then 2 women came out and said he sexually harassed them, not assaulted them, harassed them, okay? Now, I'm not saying being harassed isn't a big deal, but they weren't assaulted. But if you would have seen the way that the Democrats and the Republicans reacted, I mean, they didn't even come close to acting like that from all these dead elderly people. They didn't even hardly acknowledge it. And now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, well, Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, those are credible. What they're saying is credible. First of all, I don't know how she knows that. The allegations alone, according to Democrats, should be taken very seriously, and they should automatically assume that the guy's guilty. That's the way that they do it. But I'm not saying Cuomo's probably not guilty, because he's the biggest horse's ass I've ever seen, narcissistic psychopath I've ever seen in my lifetime. But the fact is, they were all silent. All these politicians and celebrities and all these people, they were all silent. And the reason they were silent about the elderly people, you know, basically getting murdered because of these mandates, and because they're only now starting to make a ruckus because of sexual harassment claims, is because the sexual harassment claims are something that's on the radar of, just like I was saying before, of popularity. And it's one of those niche things right now, which again, I'm not downplaying sexual assault. It's a very violent thing and should be taken very seriously. But it's what I'm trying to get at is the reason why these politicians jump on that and not on the elderly problem and the death of these elderly people is because it's not a fashionable thing. That's, to be honest with you, it's a popular thing to be outraged about sexual harassment. Those of us in law enforcement, we've always been enraged by it. People who care about other people, they've always been enraged by it. But Democrats and Republicans, that seems to be in Hollywood, that's just a hot topic right now. You know, sexually harass, assume that the person's not lying, go after and crucify that person over there. But ultimately, you know, here's the thing that you have to realize, okay, when you're considering politicians in the United States. And as you listen to this podcast, episode 158, and hopefully share it and subscribe to the podcast, remember this: when it comes to establishment politicians and the establishment people in the political parties, they're very similar to the old saying that we used to have in the FBI: you may love the Bureau, but the Bureau doesn't love you. You may think that these politicians are, oh my gosh, they're celebrities. We should put them on a pedestal. We should worship them. You may love these politicians, these establishment politicians, but they don't love you. And that is why they're so slow to act about certain things, because if it's not in their best interest, they're not going to act. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace. I'm out of here.